Oh man, they're gonna be really excited for all that, those new races. Dragonborn, Tieflings, Lycanthropes, Elves. What up?
Hey, Rob.
Hey dude.
Hey, what's up?
Why the hell were you down there?
Reasons. Just reasons. Hi, everybody. Welcome to video 3.5. We're going to talk about some more exciting races as I pull this chair from Magic Places off camera.
Sure are. And hopefully without spilling my glass of water.
Yes, please don't. There's books everywhere.
Very valuable books that cost as much as my money.
A lot of money. So, here we are again. Totally not 10 minutes after the last video was just shot.
Hour?
Yeah.
Yeah, uploading
Movie
takes a while.
magic. So, we're going to jump right into this one. No introduction needed. And as we get myself adjusted.
Standby.
Cool.
Alright, so we left off with the Kryn. God damn it.
2-0.
You mean 0-2?
Yeah.
So, now we're going to move on to the rare races. First, the Dragonborn. Dun, 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 you know, cue Skyrim music and Fusro dying. However, unlike in Skyrim, the Dragonborn were created. And not really in a pleasant way. But we won't get into that. It gets messy and it's a little X-rated.
The history of Dragonborn is rough. All you need to know, as of now, is that they were a manufactured race. They were manufactured prior to the Magocracy. They were manufactured by a group of wizards to essentially become a new army during the Planar Wars. The mortal races, humans, dwarves, gnomes, all the ones minus the elves, since they've disappeared by this point, they were getting pretty crushed by the extraplanar forces that were being brought in for the Planar War. So, using magic and alchemy and science,
a little bit of genetics, a little bit of Kojima.
Bad stuff. They were created to be the new bulk of the army. These guys were, unlike the Dragonborn character model you see in the book, these guys were more closely to the actual half-dragon monsters. They were very strong, they were powerful, they had arcane prowess, they had physical prowess. These guys really won that war for really just their own side.
Yeah, the Republic Wizards really, as horrible as what they did, they made a good product.
They did.
The Dragonborn were essential to putting down the legions of hell, and there's
even now there are stories and legends of Dragonborn fighters and warriors who did these epically heroic feats like slaying pit fiends and putting down a solar angel and things that were really just causing more harm than any kind of good. However, after the war, they were promised citizenship.
They were promised a place in the world that they were born into, and unfortunately, they made that deal with the Republic, and while they were overseas, the Magocracy had changed hands.
The Magocracy became the ruling force over Cadus, and they denied the Dragonborn their civil rights, their citizenship, and really all the things that define them as people. This led to the Dragonborn rebelling into just flat-out aggressive warfare, and it was not looking good for the Magocracy's new army that they were barely putting together at the war's end.
Yeah, the Mage Knights, which was now, it is the current, and at the point very fledgling, military of the Magocracy, were getting slaughtered. The Dragonborn were experienced fighters. They had been fighting the angels and demons for years, and they were some of the best veterans that were on the battlefield.
So a couple of newbie Eldritch Knights didn't stand a chance.
No, and while the mages were willing to placate them and let them get their anger and frustration out, it wasn't until the Dragonborn brought down an entire city and even killed a mage, and important, that the mages had to go to something drastic. And that would be a manufactured, necromantic in nature, plague. One that specifically targeted those with draconic heritage. And this had the side effect of being a blanket effect, so anyone with a draconic bloodline.
Dragons.
Oh, right, dragons.
Rare as dragons were already by this point in Cadus, they had gone into low numbers way thousands of years ago. By this point, those remaining few of an endangered species were more or less wiped out. People haven't seen a dragon since.
The elves did most of that, but
that's
yeah.
true. But a dragon has not been seen since. So dragons went down. The Dragonborn, as desired, also went down.
Those of draconic bloodline, so
sorcerers were all killed as well. Dragonborn, however, had some, barring very few, had a resistance, I'll say, to this plague.
Well, I wouldn't quite call it a resistance. I just that they
didn't
survived.
die. They survived.
I
the
mean,
plague.
it's like you can survive polio, and sure, you're crippled now.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you beat polio.
Yeah. The result of this, the survivors didn't necessarily get off scot-free. Those that were afflicted and survived, many of which were just hampered and just physically and magically and everything else, were just weakened. Their draconic bloodline has been just so worn down, and this is why this is what essentially culminated into the playable Dragonborn race, because since half dragons are a little too powerful for a player to use. So this is why we have the Dragonborn. Any delineation in color between individual Dragonborn disappeared. They all became, like, as certain books say, they just kind of all became like a muddled brown color.
Yeah, so if you play a Dragonborn, you can still pick a heritage, but you don't have this bright delineation between, well, I'm of a green heritage,
yeah,
and
that
I'm of
doesn't
a
happen
blue.
anymore.
None of that really matters. It's a miracle you're still alive. Along with the crippling weakness, many Dragonborn were rendered sterile.
Yeah.
And while men were rendered sterile, the females had a difficult time laying eggs as well. And so it became...
Should be noted they lay eggs, not give birth.
Yes. Even though they have mammary glands and old artwork of them, which is just creepy. They're lizards.
No.
Right. So the biggest problem is that the race is on a obvious downspin. Most of them died from the plague itself, and those that did survive are much weaker for it. And because of that, the Mage Knights did a real cleanup job. It's, to make a horrible comparison, it's smallpox blankets.
Yeah, that being said, in modern day Cadus, the very few Dragonborn that exist, they are vagabonds. They're homeless, they're destitute. A small percentage of people, and I say people because I specifically mean common folk, more so than people in positions of power, remember their contributions to the Planar Wars, and they'll help them out with what they can, give them some food, give them some gold, to help them along their way.
You know, occasionally I go to Penn Station, I give one of them a few dollars.
Yeah, like you know, help them out. But the majority of people view them, they really remember the betrayal and not the contributions to the war. And so they are, for the most part, looked down upon by society.
Which is a real shame, because these were heroes. These men and women are the reason why...
Angels and devils aren't ruling the world right now.
Or we're still fighting them.
Yeah. So moving off of Dragonborn, there's nothing else for them, right?
No, they live in the fringes, so you really won't see them in green territories.
No.
Yellows and reds especially.
Yep.
Again, they're in a very low number. These are rare races, so I would not be surprised if the players wouldn't even encounter one unless they went to a certain area.
Yeah.
Oh, man, we're just getting into sad territory here.
Elves.
Oh.
Yeah, elves.
You want this one?
I hate the elves anyway, so this will be just a joy for me to read. Long ago, as we've stated, elves were once in the seat of power over Cadus. Cadus was an elven continent, along with some other races like the gnomes and the halflings and Goliaths, you know, the ones that have stayed here. Now, elves are no longer that. Not even close to that. Due to the Unification Wars, 80% of elvenkind was wiped out, just slaughtered, or captured, or killed, or casualties of war. Of that remaining 20%, many scattered into the wilds and just sought to carve out little private lives of their own, and fewer still actually managed, those powerful enough to do this, or found people powerful enough to do this, fled into the Feywild. As elves have a sort of connection to Fey and nature,
They felt
like they could seek asylum there. and those who fled there, no one's really heard from them since. That being the case, elves are really just a former shadow of, or a shadow of their former glory and might and power. That's all that's kind of gone away. You will not find hoity-toity elves in Caedus.
Well, I mean, I suppose if you found a mage, or like a high-ranking mage who was still an elf, but I don't think people would think he's, you know,
people would assume that
because he's an elf, but because he's a mage.
People would assume if you're a mage and you're a full-blooded elf, a lot of other mages, particularly the human majority, would think that an elf has an unfair advantage because elves are so naturally inclined to work with the arcane arts. So they would say that, oh, he cheated because he's got the inherent advantage. Check your privilege, elf.
Well, I mean, a lot of the old racial tension is
still there.
Still there.
Yeah.
I mean, humans can get past it, and even, well, dwarves are xenophobic, but they don't even bring it up. But like, yeah, you wiped them out, and now you're treating them like shit still.
Yeah, this is, and we're talking a war that occurred roughly, approximately 1,000 years ago, and this racial tension has still not gone away. That's how bad the blood was between humans and elves. And subsequently the races that chose to side with either of these two forces. That being the case, they avoid civilized areas. The ones who are on Caedus avoid civilized areas. They don't fit in. They're not liked.
I think you're most likely to run into them in the yellow zones, like the wastelands. A lot of them have become nomadic, particularly the wood elves. They've now entered into that more wild elf territory.
They make up the majority of the elves that are left.
Right. Well, a lot of the high elves and even rumors of Eladrin.
Well, Eladrin are believed to be extinct, completely extinct.
Right. Actually, that's true. That's up for a lot of academic debate.
Yeah, and high elves are, again, few in number. Wood elves are the majority of those remaining because of their inclination for survival in the wild and make good rangers, stuff like that.
But a lot of them, you'll find them in the wild. People have a different point of view depending on if they're aggressive, passive, but everybody knows that you should take them with a grain of salt and a lot of caution.
Yes.
It has been known that elves raid human settlements. Take it with a grain of salt. Propaganda goes a long way in the mageocracy, but
it does.
It's not a good time to be an elf, and it really seems that the only kind of elves that make any happy lives are those that forsake their elven kind.
Yes.
And those that assimilate into the mageocracy.
Yes. And believe, more so, believe in the mageocracy, and that the mageocracy is doing the right thing in their power, which by and by is true. But yeah, elves that completely cut all ties of being an elf, that they, you know, there are cases of elves even cosmetically getting their ears cut and
mirroring humans and siring half-elves.
Yes, exactly. So there are those instances where you have elves who've completely done away with their elven heritage and just assimilated into the new world. But that number is a small point percentage of a small percentage.
I mean, you know, you'd have to imagine elves don't have huge populations to begin with, and you knock off 80%, and then out of that 20 that survive, I mean, less than 10% fled into some planar realm, if you believe them, and the other ones live in the wastelands. So you're talking about what? Half of 1%?
Yeah.
Maybe 1% who live in human lands?
In all of Caedus, we're talking between 1 to 100 of these things may be there, and probably 10 of those 100 are established. They're very, very rare. Moving from them, we're going to go right into shifters. We did make shifters a playable race. For those unfamiliar, those are the half-lycanthropes, I guess is the best way to call it.
Descendants of lycanthropes. There's a mixture of lycanthropes. Lycanthropy. Catchphrase.
Yeah, basically they're people who are Sabretooth from X-Men, because that's pretty much the exact reference you can go with. They're generally people who have animalistic traits that are visible, and then they can transform to a degree, but it's kind of like a halfway transformation where they're stuck. They get more feral, they may grow fangs, claws, more hair, but they don't change into a man-wolf or a man-tiger.
Think of it like the original Wolfman movie, where he still has his humanoid form. He doesn't actually turn into a wolf, nor does he turn into the werewolf that is now Hollywood or in Castlevania. Oh, I love Castlevania. Where, you know, you fight the Wolfman, he's literally a wolf who stands on two legs.
Yep.
This is clearly a humanoid that has some animalistic blood in them. Shifters, not much is known about them. They hang out in the southeastern forest.
Correct.
Which is I believe in and of itself a yellow zone.
Yes, it is entirely a yellow zone, bordering on a red zone. However, their actual existence, according to Magiocratic records, is actually still kind of a question mark. There have been sightings and reports. People have gone to explore this region that they presumably occupy, but they're not sure. Do they exist? Yes or no? The answer is yes. How big of an influence do they have? Very little.
That now being said, if you do wish to play a shifter, you will have information that, by and large, other people do not. But that should also be said for all of these rare races. These races are so rare that just knowledge about them is either lost to time, hidden away, or just simply unknown.
AKA bordering on meta.
Right, so...
Your origin will actually determine how much information you may or may not get on a particular history.
So while we could tell you, this is meant to be what the average person knows, not what you know. So again, if you're interested in shifters, cool lycanthrope people, I mean, who doesn't like werewolves? I like werewolves.
I want, like, panther claws to fuck things up.
Panthers? Dude, wolves.
Whatever, claws.
Alright, good point. Alright, so shifter sightings in the southeastern forest. Nobody knows much more than that. And moving on.
Yep.
Last one is tieflings. Oh, but I love tieflings. Tieflings are hellspawn, and I love them for it. Unfortunately, in Cadus, with the planar war still being a fresh wound, everybody sees them as a sole reminder of what was lost.
Good.
Ignorance. So, of course, people view the tiefling with, I mean, not just distrust, but like outright malice. Because it's a reminder that they've lost contact with the gods, and how many people were killed, and the loss of life, and everything that has gone wrong in this world, people can trace back to the planar wars. And unfortunately, who better to take it out on than the person who literally looks like a devil or demon?
And people actually responsible?
Well, they're not responsible. I mean, they got pulled into it. Right, so they're not viewed any differently than any other fiend.
Which, I mean, that's a big step. I mean, a tiefling, powerful as a tiefling may be, a tiefling is no fiend, a real fiend.
Right, but that doesn't
But they're viewed as such, which is a big deal. That's a huge leap.
But that doesn't stop people from literally lynch mobbing them.
Yes, that is a common occurrence. Elves will be persecuted and might be pushed away from the society. Tieflings will outright get lynched. They will have mob mentalities. People want nothing to do with tieflings.
So if you were a half-orc when you came into town, you know, alright, well, I'd watch you really carefully and make sure, like a halfling...
Don't go breaking my store.
Or like a halfling, I'd watch and make sure he doesn't steal anything. Literally, tiefling walks in the store and it's, get out.
Yeah.
I'm calling the police.
Yeah.
And then maybe, you walk by the hallway or by the alleyway and people close their windows, close their doors. Like, you are a thing of mysticism and fear.
And paranoia.
And paranoia. I mean, there were rumors, and even rumors to this day even, of demons who, after the Planar War, hid away, unable to return to their planes, who melded into society. I mean, the tieflings clearly came from somewhere, although a lot of that was during the Planar War, so you can't blame them, and a lot of that fiendish blood stays around.
It does.
But guess what? It doesn't stop people from getting the old pitchfork and...
That's true.
And the lowercase t's and murdering people.
Tieflings are probably the one... Every race that is rare and generally persecuted against in Cadus always has the exception, as we said in the last video, that if you're within the society, if you work with the Magiocracy, you're pretty well accepted. You may get some back comments here and there, but for the most part, you're integrated. That exception really does not exist for tieflings. Tieflings are that hated. As a matter of fact, you can ask any Cadian citizen whether they hate an elf or a tiefling more. That's a matter of great debate among Cadian scholars.
Yeah, it's pretty irrational.
Yeah, and that's not to say that tieflings are all inherently bad. Obviously, playable tieflings are an option. However, you will have a hard time in Cadus as a tiefling. That doesn't mean you can't be a good person. Right. Tiefling Paladin's always a popular choice, I know. Sure, makes sense. So the option is there for you guys to pick. We're just letting you know that culturally, tieflings are rough. It's hard.
And unfortunately, unlike a lot of elves where, alright, you're in a yellow zone, people may be a little bit more accepting because it's about survival, because it's such a shitty area. With tieflings, it doesn't really matter where you are. Nobody really likes you. I mean, you may find a village that doesn't really care, or hey, you want to help me out with the crops? That's great. I don't mind. But it's almost universal that you're at least going to be viewed with some suspicion if you're a tiefling. And I'm actually getting like almost upset about this. Like I almost didn't want them to be this prejudiced against, but
Well, we thought of actually ruling them out as playable characters.
Right,
We
I
want them
mean-
to extend that option to the players because we know how many players like playing tieflings. That being the case, the other thing that should be noted briefly on tieflings is that one would argue that tieflings could simply gather themselves and create like a small outcropping tiefling society. We're not totally against that idea if you intend to include it in your origin story. However, know that if you had that large of a group of tieflings together, the Magocracy would know about it, and the Magocracy would more likely than not do something about it, and that's the scary concept.
I mean, the Magocracy is not really in the business of assassinations. Or
No.
anything. It's too messy. But what they may do is they may tell a nearby village about it.
Oh, yeah.
And let them do it.
And they'll deal with it. And that
Ugh.
wraps up everybody, actually.
Alright, so let's see here. So the races again, for the common ones, you had Dwarf with Gray, Dweger, same thing, Mountain and Hill. Gnomes, which was the Rock Gnomes, Deep Gnomes, oh, and Forest Gnomes. Apologies for not reminding us, or them.
Reminding ourselves.
Yeah, whatever. Rock Gnomes are 90% of the gnomes in the world. Deep Gnomes make up the other percentage, and then 1% are Forest Gnomes. Most gnomes have forsaken that foresty, fey background to them. Most of them are the tinkerers and the geniuses and the alchemists that we have in our world nowadays. Halflings, we have doing a lot of coke. Doing a lot of coke. Lightfeet or Lightfoot, Stout, and Ghostwise. Ghostwise are very rare. Lightfoot are your really stereotypical druggy Roma.
The roguey kind.
Yeah, the roguey kind, and then the Stout are actually rumored to have some relation to dwarves.
It's thought that their actual lineage, it traces back to halfling and dwarf crossbreeding, but we're not sure. It's unconfirmed.
Again, meta knowledge and player knowledge are two separate things. Humans, they're all pals. Forgeborn, 4 types of Ganassi. Goliaths. Half-elves, half-orcs, minotaurs. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoa, I don't want to say minotaurs. I'll get my fucking arms ripped out. Dragonborn, the 3 types of elves. Shifters, and tieflings. Those are the playable races. Do we have time for questions or no? I don't really think
We'll do the question video another time. We know we have a lot, and we know that you guys are eager to get those answered. We will set up another video and get those done. Probably at some point in next week.
Right. Also, for those who are in character creation right now, we've already made a post about this to now officially timestamp this at 1:53 in the morning.
Yay! Sleep!
November
that?
22nd. I don't have work tomorrow, thank God. Starting gold, you will have 650 gold to work with, plus 1 uncommon item, barring our approval.
Magical item.
Uncommon magical item, I stand corrected. No adamantine armor, we're just saying that right now. And your starting equipment, as per the book. Unfortunately, we did roll for it, and that's the number we got. And we could have been re-rolling it for, days and hours, but you know what? We took the first roll. It's a little unfortunate, but that's what we got. I guess times are hard now, which may explain why you're adventuring. The rule also applies, spend as much money as you can. If you have anything more than 50, you are reduced to 50, and if you have anything less than 50, you just keep the rest as your own pocket
You start
change.
that as your pocket money. So again, also uncommon items, did you mention the DM approval?
Yeah, DM approval, no adamantine armor.
Yeah. And that's pretty much everything right now. There is a post on the page, you guys can take a look at that. But that's pretty much it, so we'll wrap up video 3.5.
To 3.5, I guess.
3.5, yeah.
All right,
Fine.
keep the questions coming, guys. We love that you guys are reaching out to us. We have, oh my God, like a dozen people who are interested at least. We're really, really honored that you guys are as excited as we are to do this. I mean, we're doing this for you guys, but we're also doing this for ourselves.
We love the world that we've put together. It's been a labor of love over the last year.
And sharing that love with you guys is a real honor. So keep making those characters, keep your nose in the books, keep the
asking
dice
questions.
and keep the dice on the floor. And we will see you another time.
In the Shattered Realms.